Okay, so very good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. And first is, I think, my heartfelt thanks to everyone for attending such a, I'll say, awesome event where there is a lot of information to grab and act upon thereafter. And thanks to Agility today as well and Agile Lance for hosting such events for all the Agile enthusiasts across the globe. So what I am going to, so just pardon me for my voice as well, because I'm down with some cold and little bit fever. So I hope I'm audible clearly.
Perfect. You're perfect.
Okay, thank. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about probably would be the most interesting topics that what typically, if you are looking for a job, you should be targeting for. And when you are actually sitting in the interview, what typically a hirer looks in the candidate for a potential fitment. And while working in this space, I've also observed that there are misfits as well. Means at times we don't know, maybe actually the hirer don't know for what they're hiring, and at times the hiree also don't know for what they are applying. We are just applying our luck because there is a lot of traction happening in the IT industry for the job movements, and I think everybody is aware about that. That's the one of the topmost issue that any enterprise or organizations are facing nowadays. It may be an outcome or after effects of pandemic, but yes, it has become one of a challenging area for the enterprises as well as for individuals as well. So I'll just put forward some of my experiences that we have been facing. But before we begin on, just a very, very quick and brief introduction. So I am Meetu. I have close to 23 years of experience in IT. As rightly said by Steve as well, I have also started my career as a developer. So I've been into a product development for a banking industry, been fortunate enough to be part of the initial evolution of the product journey for retail banking. That was a very great experience to begin with in this industry. And that's one thing that connects me now as well, because when I look at product development, to be honest, nothing changed since then now in 23 years. Product development remains same, but yes, now we all are talking about agile because that's the way the products can evolve, or you can actually run that in the market. So, but thereafter, as part of my career timeline, I have moved into various diversified roles. After development, I moved into project management, delivery management. I have also worked with customers for defining the customized way of working, their frameworks. Also led a lot of these industry accreditations for IT organizations like CMMI, PCMM, TMMI, ISO 27001, PCI DSS, SOX, GDPR. I mean, I'm sure in the last 16, 18 years, in my last profile, I would have touched upon all the industry certification which is applicable for IT. It has been a great learning experience. And I've also got opportunity to work with the leadership team to set up Agile Center of Excellence and Estimation Council with innovative models that can fit well into the Agile environment. And right now I'm working with ZBA for last 3 years. And here I head the Agile Consulting and Transformation vertical. So you can say our day in, day out job is actually serving our client, supporting our client on Agile transformations. So all relevant role that you would hear in the Agile domain is what we deal with: Scrum Master, Product Manager, Product Owner, Enterprise Agile coaches, Scrum coaches, Safe coaches, all, because that's all the expertise that we support our clients with. Okay, now to moving on the hiring trends, before we jump into the specifics of the few hiring elements, some trends that I've been observing for last 1.5 years, to be more precise, keeping the pandemic in context, and that's how the entire change start to happen. And I foresee that the virtual hiring trend continue to grow. Earlier, it was, people are taking off from their normal weekday and then going to take an interview. I think no more that kind of hustle and fussle is going to be there in your life. So virtual hiring continue to grow in the year 2022 as well. And location constraint, I think, and all of you would agree, location constraints now are actually going away while organizations are adopting remote working culture. And earlier it was a constraint. If I'm hiring for Delhi NCR, I need people who can stay in Delhi NCR or in Noida so that they can travel to office. But now it is no more a constraint. You can hire people from any part of the globe or India, within India as well as in the outside India locations as well. And then another thing that is now very, very much coming in handy when you are actually applying for a profile and people are picking up your profile for a first selection, how active you are on social media, because that's the only way today to tell how much you are contributing back to the society and how much you are gaining and sharing. So that's one key aspect. And trust me that when we pick up a profile for our vertical as well, apart from they attempt for a test, because now test is the first element, it has been there in our vertical for very, very long time now, I think since it has started. But now it has converted into a generic trend all across. The first knowledge test is by test, any objective test or subjective test, and then we actually review the social media profile of the individual. How active is the person? What activity has been done in the last 1 month or 3 months? So that gives lot of view about the community connect of the individual. What eventually this person is going to bring onto your vertical thereafter. Then one great thing that has happened in the pandemic is more focused actually in our vertical. Definitely it has improvised, because if I look at the numbers for my vertical, approximately we have now approximately 40% women workforce in the agile consulting vertical. And all that happened specifically in the pandemic, because although we have launched a lot of these program of Vasantam, where we were inviting a lot of these females who are on career break and want to continue, because remote working don't have to go anywhere, you can manage home, you can be working job as well. So that's also, you will see a lot of women task force adding across the globe in a lot of organization, and a lot of organizations are actually starting these Vasantam programs or career break programs for females. And another thing that is also going to be actively happening in the industry is internal movements. Earlier, it was also there. I assume that in many organizations, you have this internal job posting policy, but it was normally used to happen strategically. I mean, when somebody is talk to you, I want to move into SM role, and then the position will open and then you will apply. But now looking at the skill scarcity in the industry, a lot of organizations are actually promoting internal movements where you say, okay, you want to come into this profile. Like in our vertical, I think approximately 4 to 5 candidates we have moved from QA vertical, testing digital assurance vertical, into product owner profile. And one of them also moved into Scrum Master. So that opportunity is actually given by organizations, because that gives you a lot of advantage. People already know the organization, they know the culture, they know the way of working. So it will be lesser of a time to groom them, and they'll be productive in the lesser time. So that also I feel so continue to grow as we move forward. So if you are thinking for moving into a respective role, which you have not done till now, and you're still thinking, probably this year would be the best time for you to start your journey for the movement. A lot of opportunity. Now, that's also a new thing I've seen in last 2 years, again, to be more precise. Lot of opportunities for contractors and temp professionals in India. Earlier, it was actually not the trend. It was normally being taken. If I talk about a percentage any organization or industry operate with, at least in India geography, nobody would prefer to increase their headcount more than 10 to 12% in the contracting employees. But now the trend is changing. So a lot of the people are also open now for contractors job. It's not only the organization, the change is happening from both the sides, the hiring and the hirer. Yes, that's also a new change in the industry. And hiring would continue to be the topmost focus of the organization, as I said, because I think in the entire experience of the pandemic and the remote working, when a lot of business got a major hit, then the entire thought process started to happen that before we reach to that stage in our business, let's invest into digitization. And digital transformation has started to become a number one priority for any industry. And BFSI named to be number one, because now earlier it was a case, I have to do something, I have to go to visit a branch, and then I talk to the executive or maybe some customer center guy, he will tell me. Now they say, don't come to branch, we will give you everything at your doorstep or in your mobile. You just do it, say it in the email, everything is done. So digitization in banking industry followed by retail has really picked up. Pharmaceutical, healthcare for that matter, e-commerce, all these domains are booming in terms of digital transformation. So lot of opportunities for IT professionals in this year. And probably this will also be a good time for anyone who would like to begin their career in IT. Why I'm actually emphasizing on this, because if I talk about my career start, which was way back in 1998, 99, At that time, there was no such buzz. You have to be BTech, you have to be this qualification. If you have done a diploma, 3-4 year diploma from an IT, you can code, you can clear the test, you are in IT. And off late, I think after that 10 years or so, the trend has changed. Now the bare minimum qualification, are you BTech? And irrespective you know coding or you don't know coding, if you are BTech, we will groom you, we hire you fresher, and then we deploy. But now the trend has changed. If you are a contractor, you are excellent in the skills because you have actually cleared their hackathon test or a written test, maybe for coding skills or any skills for that matter. The organizations will not shy away hiring you. And that's the reason, be it whatever qualification you have, if you have skills in your hand, this will be the best time for you to start your career in IT. So these are some very, very key highlights for the hiring which is happening in this year and going to be continuing for this year, 2022. But let me now quickly jump on few more pointers that I've gathered. So what the trend I have seen, technically, as I said, digital transformation is the topmost priority everywhere happening. And if we bifurcate the needs, the skill demand into three major categories, one is product organization, IT captives or IT services. So IT services anyways on the boom because there are businesses who are doing digital transformation, they are coming to IT services company and they have to be following agile way of working only. Now there is no negotiation. Can you follow for waterfall or can you follow agile? It has to be agile. But the only fundamental difference you see between a product company and product IT captives and IT services is in services company, they may be releasing a posting for they want to hire a scrum master. But if you are going into IT services company, just having a scrum master experience, and if you have not done project management earlier, then it will be a very difficult game for you to enter in that industry. Because in IT services, it is a contracting environment. You need to have a project management background beforehand. And if you are just a scrum master with 7-year experience, 5-year experience, maybe relevant one, you would join, they will give you opportunity because everybody is in that wave of moving to agile, but it will be very, very much challenging for you. And another point is challenging. Second is the scrum master start to feel at one point in time that, am I actually a scrum master or a coordinator? That I am talking to these people, I am sending their request, I am coordinating. So at times scrum masters start to feel that I am actually not doing a scrum master job. I am just doing a coordination across, different stakeholders. And project management, on the contrary, is more about stakeholder management and ensuring that you meet the plan, you deliver on the timeline, and you maintain the budgets. So even though organizations are adopting to agile, so they are actually looking for project managers, business analysts. Maybe they are opening a position as product owner, but they actually prefer the people who have business analysis experience in their career timeline and then elevated themselves to a product owner or a product manager and agile delivery manager. So if you do a mapping, very simple mapping, agile project manager is scrum master, business analyst, product owner and product manager, and agile delivery managers are nothing but agile coaches that we talk about in the true agile product organization or captives. And that's a fundamental difference we have seen in the positions. And captive, I have seen, I think more than 90% of the client captives with whom we are working in BFSI and the other domains as well, most of the enterprises has already taken a decision that we want to do a transformation using scaled agile as a platform. And the only reason I feel so why they are more inclined to scaled agile, because it gives them the complete enterprise structure. They tells them how to do business planning, they tell them how to do governance. They also then talk about scrum practices, Kanban practices at the team level. So you can say scaled agile in that ways has done a very, very smart move. All possible term that the executive leadership want to hear is actually being packaged into scaled agile. You talk about lean, you talk about design thinking, system thinking, customer centricity, scrum, Kanban, right? Any industry practices that eventually was followed earlier by the leadership is actually being combined into one platform, scaled agile. And that's one reason captives are very, very much inclined to safe based roles also. They are hiring RTE, they are hiring safe scrum master or product owner, product manager, and engineering managers as well. So that's the role-based trend that I've been looking after in the hiring right now and observing. Now coming to, I'm doing it a little fast, assuming that I have 25 minutes, right, Dipti? So just let me know if anyone, if you feel so, you want to have any question in between, you want to stop me in between, please do so. I'm just picking up the relevant points to talk about, just to give you the high level picture here.
We have
Now,
enough time, Meetu. Yeah.
okay, wonderful. Thank you, Deepti. So coming into challenges, and the very first challenge that I have written is actually the most prominent one and the most difficult one to deal with. So when you talk and deal with the customers, they share a JD, right? They need a Scrum Masters. And actually in their environment, when you go, after let's say the person has been selected and you are deploying the individual, actually on ground, they're not agile because they are either still in the mode of agile transformation, or they have started talking or taking steps towards agile. So they are still into that traditional mindset. And eventually they actually don't need a scrum master to fit really well in the current context. But the JD will always be scrum master. And I always, I remember in one of the call, I was talking to my sales guy, the account folks, and he was saying, Meetu, people are not clearing the interview. I said, people will never clear the interview because your customer actually wants an Avengers. And when the job that he is giving them for giving them on ground to do is actually a very normal man. So how the Avenger skills will be used if they want to evaluate Avenger? So it's not going to fit well. So one thing that has been, I think, and then we have a couple of conversations with client as well, that they should actually create their JD alignment to the current environment that they're dealing with, but not with the desired environment that they chase to be. So they are in doing agile mode, actually. They are not be agile at this point in time. And that's a fundamental disconnect, that they give you a true Scrum Master JD, somebody who understands manifesto, core values, Scrum values, understand Scrum truly well, do not talk about project management. The moment the person will talk about, and then they will say, no, he's actually a project manager. He may not be do a true Scrum Master job. And then the disconnect happen and the rejections happen. That's a fundamental disconnect we are facing with right now. Although we are trying to educate the client, at some places it works, at some places, as we say, customer is a king, so they don't want to listen. So we continue to give them what they want, but in the same package in which they want. But eventually, I know what will work there. So that's the way we are dealing with. Another challenge, I think all of you would agree, 90 days notice period. It's an industry level challenge, not something that we are only facing. And I think I put so few of the blogs in recent past where some of the industry leaders were talking about that should we mandate a 30-day notice period in IT industry to actually break this chain. Because what's happening in 90 days, there are a lot many opportunities, as I said, floating in the market. And it's not nothing wrong at the candidate side, to be honest. I don't want to blame to the people who says, okay, now I don't want to join. That's perfectly okay, because their intent is clear. They want to go to the best place with the best compensation. So they are perfectly right over there. But this 90 days notice period is not solving anybody's problem. So I know if I offer someone with 90 days, I am 110% sure he's not going to join or she's not going to join. So that doesn't work. But still, I think people are striving with. There are few exceptions, but very little, who give commitment and then joins. And another challenge that we also see right now, people moving from traditional roles to agile role with minimal exposure. And you see this actually movement is happening very fast. Movement in a way that if people who are working in the services industry, they are very fast moving to the product organization or captive organization, looking at there will be a stability, there will be a long-term plan for them, and then they'll be moving into a scrum master role. But they are coming from the traditional IT organization, so actually they do not carry that agile mindset to the true intent, but because they just want to move to some better place, that's what they have hearing. These are the good advantages over there. So then this movement from services to the product and captive company are happening very frequently. Even in, not in our organization only, in a couple of my connects, I have, kept on hearing this with a lot of agile coaches and product owners. So why are you leaving? So I am leaving. I just actually want to work on with the product company. Reason being, because in the services industry, what happens? Even though if you have a product mindset, at times you have to refrain your creativity of a product manager in the services industry, because you have to revolve your creativity around the agreed scope, what eventually we need to develop. But having said so, I also feel so that's a perception that we have created in our mind. I believe so. If you take one step and give some idea to the customer, I think if you follow this, then your product will go to the next level and your revenues will grow and your customer base will increase. It will actually change the perception of the client as well. So people who are thinking and then leaving there, probably, I don't want to comment it, but I saying that they are not following or probably helping the industry in the true intent, because you are the agile enthusiast and you should actually take that courage to make the transformation happen with the client, and that's your real success. So that's what I say. If you get an opportunity where you can use your skill to best of your ability, wonderful, right? But trust me, if you are working in that, then slowly, gradually, you are moving into the comfort zone, and learning will eventually stop certain point in time. Learning will always be happening when you are into the environment which is not to the desired level which you wanted to work, and now after becoming part of the system you are making that change. Then you will be proud of yourself. Okay, I worked with this client was difficult to handle, nobody would convince this person, but I made the perception change for them, and then they moved into an MVP approach for the product development, right? So that's a real success of a real agile enthusiast or a coach or a product owner, that I feel so. But it's a difficult path to follow, as I say. I'm not at all recommending that everybody should go there, but it's a thought to explore at the industry level for all the agile enthusiasts. Now, another challenge is, and actually it's a challenge, the relevant experience now actually have dripped down drastically. Earlier, when we used to hire agile coaches, you will imagine anyone who will have approximately 15, 16 years plus experience overall minimum, and should have at least 8 to 10 years of experience in working in the agile environment and defining ways of working. Now you see people having agile coach profile with 11 years of experience, and then say 7 years I have been working as an agile coach, which I doubt, which is another trouble. But in the relevant experience also, they say 3 years I have worked into the agile coach role. Again, not to question on the individual here, there are people who have done exceptionally well in the 3-year experience as well, but that's the situation right now for industry, that relevant experience actually fallen down to a very, very low level for all the roles, be it agile coach, scrum master. If you have just 2 years of scrum master experience, I think that is enough for you to enter into SM role today. 1 year is also okay. You just need to show that you have worked as scrum master and you are done. You can actually compete with the SM positions in all the 3 sectors, IT, product, or maybe services industry. Then another challenge is multiple round of assessment. Now, this is, I'll say again, after effects of pandemic. So being virtual, we don't shy away asking a candidate, oh, can you go for one more round of interview? There is one more guy who wants to talk to you. And at times what happens, the whole interview process converts into 8 to 10 conversation happened with this guy. And then client also wants to talk to this person. Now client will also have their own evaluation process. And then what will happen? This guy says, I don't know, am I being grilled or am I being evaluated, or what exactly happening with my profile? I don't know. And that's another challenge we are facing with. As I said, some clients do agree, okay, we trust your evaluation, and we will just have a conversation for half an hour to see the role fitment, and then we will move on. But yes, it's not happening so easily at most of the places. So I will also have my round of assessment, then I will go to a client will also have their round of assessment. Eventually the candidate landed up facing 8 to 10 round of interviews. And the surprising and the funny thing is, I don't see there is much of a content difference also in these round of interview. So what I am talking, the other person is also talking the same, because he or she wants to listen what I understand for a scrum master role. The other person want to listen what he or she understand what a scrum master role. But the person try to give same answer in different packages. So nothing content wise changes for the candidate. So that may be one of the reasons they are also comfortable giving interview. And being virtual, it doesn't make much of the harm. Okay, of half an hour, dead then having a blazer and everything ready, and I'm ready for the interview. I can take half an hour interview now. So that way it's happening. And as I said earlier, great opportunity to start career in the agile domain because of a lot of digital transformation, agile transformations being kicked off at various domains. So, but yeah, these you can say the last one is the opportunity which has enabled by these current challenges and the trends that we have been seeing in the agile area. Then this is again based on my experience, some tips for hiree, some tips for hirer to improvise on their process. So one is for hiree. Don't jump into the role just to enter into Agile. Do some kind of assessment where you think so your previous experience will give you added advantage. Because otherwise, what happens, normally it has happened when you sit in the interview and somebody says, okay, and I have actually seen people's profile with the title, uh, Agile Delivery Leader, Scrum Master, Product Owner, Product Manager, Agile Coach. I mean, you just actually can't imagine any single role which has not been there in the title of that resume. So technically, this person is a Superman. So everything actually this person can do. And probably with an average of 10 years of experience, you can't justify that. So you need to be really clear what exactly you aspire to jump into. Do not sit in the interview with the mindset, okay, if you think so, I'm not getting product owner, can you give me Scrum Master opportunity? That does not work. Or in that matter, I would suggest that be transparent and say that I am yet not clear what exactly I want to pursue. Can you guide me? And what do you suggest is the right role for me to continue? That will actually give a more confidence to the person with whom you are talking as well. And then he may give you opportunity for a learning and growth. But if you are confused, then it will confuse the person as well. And the outcome will be totally negative. And that's what I say, be clear what you want. Build on your existing skills. And that's what I say. Testers, I have seen actually testers or QA profiles very easily fitting well into product owner and product manager profile. However, I have seen the test managers are really well fitting into Scrum Master and Agile Coach role also. But they need a good experience because they just have exposure of half SDLC, only the QA part. Probably they do not know the integrities and know all the nitty-gritties of the development section, how the developers operate, what are their challenges. So they need to get the exposure of that level also to move into Scrum Master or a product owner role. Because nowadays, as rightly said by Steve in one of the slides, what is the key skill that is also expected in Scrum Master being technical? And when you talk to the client, so technical here is not that you have to do a coding, but are you able to comprehend to the problems that the developers are facing in terms of their impediment? Some developer says, I don't think so. The API is ready and integration cannot happen. Hence, my story cannot be completed. So if you know this entire way, then only you will be able to comprehend and solve their problem. Otherwise, it will be a big task. And that's one reason developers moving into a Scrum Master role, they are very successful because they have exposure to the complete SDLC. Right? And they actually can catch the problem at the root level, at the code level itself, when the things are stuck. Right? So that's one advantage there. Business analyst, I think a very obvious transition from product owner, BA to a PO or a PM is a very, I think, very obvious transition. And most of the individual moves in that area. And don't just do all possible certification. That's another you can say input here for profile. Just adding the certifications in your profile do not give you, to be honest, edge to be shortlisted for the profiles. Do it the one which really matches to the role that you aspire to. Right? So if you have done CSPO also, PSM1 also, PSM2 also, CSPO also, ICP, ACC as well, PMP as well, DevOps certification as well, that's perfectly fine. Gaining a knowledge is nowhere is going to probably, it's always going to add some of the other way. But typically you should highlight those certifications in your profile better, which is aligning to your vision or your career roadmap, what you aspire to be, that why you have done. And have you thought of answering this question in the interview? If somebody says, why you have done all these certification? What was the reason? So you should have a very thoughtful answer. Why these certifications? Right? It should not be, I just wanted to do move into agile domain. So hence I thought I'll start with this. Somebody told me this is also good, so I did this as well. So don't just add up certification. So this question is really relevant and you need to be really thinking through what is the reason you want to tell to the hirer in the interview. And as I said earlier, focus on your social media presence. That's one thing recruiters are also scanning before sharing the profile. Right? Even in the organizations and everybody is focusing on this. Your presence on LinkedIn, that's one area. Then coming to hirer, as I said, define the JD. Most of the time, we do not have a JD because we know industry has defined the JD what Scrum Master does. Right? So we know we need a Scrum Master. Why to define a JD? We need a Scrum Master who can help to facilitate Scrum process, remove impediment, be a servant leader. and that's what we need. No, you need to be a little more elaborative, because a Scrum Master role in your environment, in your context, could be demanding something more what typically Scrum offers. So what is that more? That needs to be very clearly articulated in the JD. Maybe behavioral skills, trait, anything that you want to focus on. Behavioral competencies must in the JD. What kind of person you want to hire as a Scrum Master? And as I said, very simple example. Let's say if you hire an introvert for a sales job, right? And you did not realize that he's an introvert. He eventually likes to be doing a desk job more. And you hired this person as a sales because the interview was fantastic. What will happen with the individual? He will not be self-organized, self-motivated, what the agile intent we talk about. So behavioral competency, let's say, for example, social skills, is something that I do not want to compromise when I'm hiring a Scrum Master, because he need to coordinate with internal, inward facing, outward facing stakeholders to facilitate the whole outcome for the team. So social skills are key important aspect. Somebody who is in the driving seat, right? Not somebody who is steady and who is perfectly fine, comfortable with what team are doing, right? And that's the reason a lot of clients say, no, we need somebody who is very aggressive. But aggressive probably do not just define what is Scrum Master behavioral competency. So that should be part of a JD. That's one point here. Focus on giving learning experience to the client. Now that's to the candidate. That's very important part. I feel so irrespective, you hire the person or you do not hire the person. But you can say that my vision is that when the person undergo the process of interview, irrespective you hire or do not hire, but person should say in the future, whenever meeting to someone, that I really enjoyed undergoing the interview process with this organization. It needs to, the candidate should learn something as part of your process and enjoy as well. Comfort also, where he was transparent and open enough to talk about his weakness, because at times people just share their weakness when they are comfortable, otherwise they will not. And in 1 hour, trust me, you cannot evaluate the person to best of your ability. How much great you are, at times your instinct works very well and the person fits very well when the person joins in, but 1 hour at times is not at all sufficient. So focus on giving that experience to the candidate, so that candidate is also comfortable being vulnerable in the interview process, and then actually you can evaluate. And it's not about gauging, okay, now me is vulnerable, I don't want to hire him or not. That's not the point. Point is, you should gauge what are the strengths, what are the weakness, and then you create a plan that when this person comes on board, these are the areas I really want to support this person to move to the next level in the career. Because we want to hire for the right attitude, not only for the skills. That's the whole point. Learning ability. Keep transparency in the process. As I said, that will really give a lot of advantage to the hirer, the organizations who are actually talking to the candidates. Keep your process very transparent. If you feel so, you are talking to a guy, you're just going, let me talk. I think so his salary expectation do not match, but let me still talk. No, you have to be pretty clear. I think your salary demand is not matching our band, so there is no point talking, but let's talk about, but I mean, you should have a clarity why you are talking. It should not be, let me give it a try. If I can convince him to come down. No, that's not the idea. The person will never be motivated, even though if you hire. Validation process, interview assessment process has to be quantitative than qualitative. So test is as a first step, as I said, gives the complete idea about the individual knowledge. And then your L1, L2, whatever process that you have should give a quantitative score for the person ability, be it in the behavioral side, be it on the skill side, to take a call, but not on the subjective assessment of an individual that I like this guy, I think he's good. The other interview says, I did not like it, I think he's not good. Then you're in the soup. To whom you follow or whom you have better relation with, you'll follow his decision. Okay, I think I have good rapport with this guy, so let me hire him. So it has to be very clear quantitative method of evaluation. And for service provider, that's what I said, reduce the assessment number of interview levels that you have. Reducing does not mean you are compromising on the evaluation. Reducing means have just two rounds maximum, but these 2 rounds should be thorough enough to give you confidence that is it a right fit for you to hire. Having 5 rounds does not give you the surety, but 2 quality rounds will give you the surety. Right? So do not think on that if 5 people tells you yes, he's a good guy to hire. No, that's not the idea. Right? So some quick tips on hiring and hirer. Then some few things that I just talk about, but to focus, that is for hirer. Although I've covered all these points earlier as well, I just want to focus on one line here that we say hire for the right attitude, because skills, as I said, are something are trainable. If somebody knows, let's say out of on the scale of 1 to 10, he says my Scrum knowledge is 6. You can train this guy to come move from 6 to 8 or a 9. That's possible. But if the person do not carry a right attitude, being flexible, being adaptive, understanding and comprehending the situation, if the person learning ability, if the right attitude is not there, even though he's the excellent Scrum Master, you will have hard time getting the work done by this guy. So always give preference to the attitude than the skill, because skills, as I said, are trainable. And see, behavior and attitude are soft skill of the individual. And we inherit some of our traits by our birth, the way in which our upbringing has been done. So it's very, very hard to change. They are trainable. I'm not saying they are not trainable, because there are a lot of soft skill training, behavioral training we have, but it's very, very hard to train area. So for the maximum benefit, focus on the right attitude, but then the skills in the number of priority. And that's on the similar line, focus on communication, articulation skills, situation handling. Right? If client is been shouting, the team is demotivated, what eventually you do as a Scrum Master, right? Adaptive to the environment. That's what I said. I have joined, I want to do a Scrum Master role. You have now working for a client who is actually not agile. They are in process of being agile. And then you say, no, actually they don't need a Scrum Master. It's very difficult for me to deliver my outcome. So fundamental thing is, if you really want to make a change, you cannot make a change sitting outside the boundary. You have to be part of the game to make a change. So be there first, go there, get adaptive to their environment, understand their challenges. And when you become part of the system, then start making the change. So if you feel so that I have joined as a Scrum Master, tomorrow onwards, stop all this 25 minutes daily stand-up meeting. It has to be 15 minutes. Scrum says, I'm a Scrum Master, I'm telling you. It may not give you that edge, right? You may have to maybe joining what they're doing and then gradually make them understand what is something that they're missing, and then make them learn the best practices of doing a daily stand-up, right? So your intent should not be on the day one you want to make a change. So stand-up has to be 15 minutes. If you are doing 25 minutes, you are not Scrum, you are not Agile. That should not be the way. Right? So learning agility, ability to drive outcome. Now that's also very, very important. And I have seen often, if let's say, if I ask an Agile coach or a Scrum Master, that's a very, you can say, one of a very frequently asked question in when I talk to the candidates or the individuals in the cultural round. If you had to quantify the achievement of yours in the role of a Scrum Master in the last 1 year, what will be those? And at times, people falter giving this answer very confidently, because it's very all subjective. No, I have done this, I have facilitated this meeting, I have made them understand Scrum. But can you quantify in the KPIs or in the outcome that by helping the team to understand the true intent of Scrum, the team performance was at X, and you, by doing that, the performance has moved to Y. There were multiple parameters to improve, but in the last 1 year, we could only improve on product quality. So that's my achievement that I can say that as a Scrum Master, I have contributed to. So you should be really, really aware how and what actually quantify your efforts in your assignment in transformation or in the Scrum Master role or a product owner role for that matter. Right? So that's a key thing to assess. That is for organizations to check when you are hiring people, because now most organizations are focusing on outcome-driven engagement. Right? Because we just don't want to do Agile because everybody is Agile. That's not the intent. I want to do Agile because I want to make a difference in my business. Either I want to increase my customer base, improve my Google rating, increase my revenue. I want to launch my product into another geography. That is something I aspire to achieve by doing Agile. Agile is not a race where everybody is running, so hence I want to run. That's not the idea. Right? So these are few areas that the organizations typically focus when they are evaluating the candidates. Then from hiring, what exactly as a candidate we look forward when we are joining a company? One is a skill and role fit. It shouldn't happen. You have taken me for a Scrum Master role, and then I am working as a coordinator in one of the organization and for one of a project. I have no role to play as a Scrum Master. So my learning will never happen. Clarity on the career roadmap. Do you know at the time of interview process itself where you will be after 2 years? If you join today as Scrum Master, will you be moving into a junior Agile coach path, and how? That could be one question you would like to ask. Just an example for Scrum Master. Understand what are the opportunities to learn and grow. Maybe these are all questions actually you can ask during any of the session when you are in the interview process to get your comfort. Is it a right company for you to join? Transparency by the employer. So are you thinking that you are asking some question and the answer is very bleak? You can't actually gauge what eventually they are trying to say. And you are doing all your possible guesses over the weekend. I think they liked me. I think they did not like me because they answered that as well. So don't get into that trap. Whatever question you have in mind, ask it transparently. And if you feel so that transparency is not maintained, probably that organization is not for you to pursue. First impression is the last impression, interview experience, I believe, and that actually influence the final decision of the individual for joining in. Organization culture, of course, and feedback from the friends, peer, and the ex-employees, that will also help a lot to take a final call that do you really want to join that position with that organization. And I think that's a fair opportunity given to the candidate as well, because it's a very, very important decision for someone as part of their career. So these are something I just written from my own experience. And actually one more thing that I do, I have not written as a focus area, to be honest. So I firmly believe in this philosophy that people do not leave the organization, they leave the bosses, right? And my last company, actually, I worked for 16 years. And only reason for staying in that company is my boss, because he has always given me that ample opportunity to take risk, take decisions, move on. Whenever you falter, I'll be there to support you. So I have always done in my life, before joining, I have always done some assessment of my boss at least first. So people do BGV, I do a BGV of my boss before joining in. So that's my practice only. I'm not recommending everyone to do that. But that's one key factor that influenced my decision for joining in any organization. So that's one. And that's all. Yeah, that's all. I've captured all the points what I feel so can help all of you to take a better decision. But any questions now? I'm not too sure if I have overshot the time, Deepti, or
5 minutes overshot.
I'm
But
still happy. I'm still happy, as said by Steve. I'm also not too good in maintaining the time boxes, because when you talk, you really intend to share everything that is in your mind. But I'm still glad 5 minutes is a good progress for me.
no, that's true. And that's an amazing, extremely valuable, and almost all the information covered, me too. And I'm sure everyone here must be really excited. We can take a few questions. 5 minutes are there. There is this one question somebody has asked. I'll just
Okay.